Hey, let me show you how to use GPT-3 in a Google Sheet in order to categorize product reviews. If you're not familiar with GPT-3, it's an AI from the company OpenAI where you can send it some text and then you get a response back. And normally you have to do that through an API, like kind of use code to send the data, or you have to kind of like log into their system and use it. But that's kind of limiting because quite often I want to be able to do this at scale, like in a spreadsheet or something. So what I've developed is basically a Google Apps extension that gives you the function for GPT-3 as like a Google Sheet function. So if you wrote, like, want to write a story once on a time, then you could press equals GPT-3. You can see the function here has a little description. So you just need to input basically the prompt and then the max tokens. That's an optional one. You'd have to worry about that. And then the temperature, also optional. For now, let's just input this text once upon a time and then close it. And it's just going to complete that text. So it's going to load. It only takes a few seconds usually. And there we go. Once upon a time in a village called Bird Cottage in the village of Waterberg, West Yorkshire, England. Okay, right? And, if we, wanted to do this a bunch of times, we could just drag this formula down. And then now it's made all these API calls for us to GPT-3, and it's going to come up with different completions. So that makes the usage, I think, of GPT-3 much cleaner and easier, and anyone non-technical can use it. So there's a little bit of a setup, which we're going to go through in a second. But first, let me show you the actual kind of issue that we're trying to solve. Okay, so we have a bunch of product reviews. This is for a smart baby product, and it helps check if a newborn is breathing, and these are kind of real product reviews, we have 30 here, but you could imagine having hundreds of these, right? And we want to really get a sense of like what are the main issues that people are finding with the product, like what can we improve for our product development. So what I've done is this is a specific review here, and then I've just manually tagged it with, like, this person talked about alarm failure, talked about connecting to the sensor, they talked about bugs in the app, and they talked about it being expensive. This person talked about the alarm volume, like it should be louder. And this one didn't mention any issues. So 5-star review, they were really happy. So I just put none. And we're using these as examples to pass to GPT-3 because, if I just say, GPT-3, if I just say, tell me the issues mentioned in this product review, and then I, insert the product review. So I put ampersand and then clicked into here. So that's going to make this all one piece of text. Make a space there, and then I want to close it out and say issues. That's called a zero-shot completion, meaning we're not giving it any examples. We're just saying, we're just talking to it like we would a human, right? We're saying, just tell me what are the issues here. And it will do a reasonable job. You'll see. It says app seems to be a bit buggy, has no way of telling the battery's low. There's some repetition here. But in general, one problem with zero shot is that it doesn't really give you back the structure of data that you want to be useful. So you can see, like, my data is much more structured and is specific labels. So instead of sending it that way, we have set up a template. So we've set up a specific list of examples and structure for the data. So this is a really useful prompt engineering tactic. We're asking a question here. We want it to extract issues from the following product reviews. And then we've got like a review and then issues, review and then issues, review and then issues. So we're giving it 3 examples of the ones that I put in here. And when we've done that, then it'll actually kind of understand, like, almost like kind of training it on what type of responses that we want. This is what we're doing here. So we're basically taking the the template, and then we're adding and review, and then and issues here. So that is the prompt that we're passing, and that gets us much better results. So you can see here that we found a lot of good issues, and the some of them are not in like full structure that we'd like, but this has saved us a lot of time. And we can kind of look in here. Sometimes like when you're evaluating your prompt, you kind of want to evaluate it like any model. So are there any false positives? So did it imagine an issue that the user didn't actually mention, or are there any false negatives? So there was an issue and it didn't pick up on it. So typically I would look at some of the nons when I'm testing this. So I'd say like this one is a non, so easy to use, annoying only connects to one phone. Okay, so that would be, that's something that it missed, right? So that's a false, that's a false negative. It said there were none, but it was wrong about that. And then, I don't think there'll be that many false positives here because it's relatively conservative. But like, let's see this guy. Do they mention battery life? Yeah, draining battery. Do they mention connectivity? Yeah, connection drops out. Do they mention synchronization? Yeah, so I imagine with this type of categorization, we're going to get more, false negatives than false positives. Although sometimes it does make up stuff, so you have to be careful. But this has saved us a bunch of time, and we're really looking at this data in aggregate anyway. So the way you would use this in the real world is you might have hundreds or thousands of these reviews, and then drag this across, and then just pick up on the general themes and kind of categorize them from here. Cool. So that's important. Now, one thing you might notice is we have some extra numbers here. So in the function, we've also passed in these optional parameters: max tokens and temperature. So what are these? So max tokens is basically how many tokens to return. So just to kind of give you an example here, if you say hello, and then if I put GPT-3, and then put the prompt, if I put max tokens of like 5, it's going to give a really short answer because and it's going to cut off, right? Because token is about 4 characters roughly, and therefore it's run out of space to respond. But if I put in max tokens of 50, it's going to give me a much longer response. And the reason why this is important is that this changes the cost of So here we go. Okay, just give me some code here. So it changes the actual cost, right? Because you pay by the number of tokens for GPT-3. It's very, very cheap. It's something like 2 cents, 2 cents an API call on average. But you have to be careful. It's like one thing to really think about is that whenever you drag this formula, or if you change something and then it recalculates, you're paying for 30 API calls or like 27 API calls every time. So it could add up pretty quickly if you don't know what you're doing. So I would say test it on just a few, and then when you're really sure, then drag everything down. Cool. The other thing we didn't explain is the temperature. So you could say, hello, my name is Dave, and then give me a prompt. Put that into the prompt. And then let's just say max tokens 100. That's what we're using as default. And then if we put a temperature of 9, that's very high. So that's going to increase the randomness of the response. Just waiting for that. Okay. So what is this saying? Okay. My name is Dave, and this is my jam. At least it seems. I've ridden the duster a few times. Okay, yeah, pretty crazy response, right? So that's a very, very random response. It's a very creative response. And then if you kind of dial it down to 1, you're going to get a very boring response, a very predictable response. So it depends on Yeah, here you go. I'm an save and I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict, right? So this is like when it's looked in the data set, like this is probably the most popular pairing, right? My name is Dave and I'm an alcoholic, right? This is this is a very kind of predictable, repetitive response. Something that's like very highly likely to show up in the data. And the data set here is like the entire internet, basically. But like 0.9 would be something creative, something very divergent from the data set. So have a think and test a few different options out. In this scenario, I found that you want it to be like slightly creative, but not too much. And therefore, I kind of have it at 0.4. And I found that works better, but it's really trial and error. No hard and fast rules to this. The default is 0.7. Cool. So that's how that works. If you, in terms of setup, there's a couple of things you need to do. So one is click here and create an account for OpenAI, get your API key and paste it in here. My API key will be deleted once I share this with you. So this function won't be working anymore. But what I will do is I'm going to have a function here, and I'm just going to delete this equal sign. So if you need to copy this function, then if you need to copy this function, then all you need to do is copy it and then put equals here. And the reason why I'm going to put it on the side here is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to press Control Shift down and then Control C to copy, and then Control Shift V to paste without function, right, and formatting. So that just pastes the values. And what I've done now is that now there are no responses back, right? It's like it's not going to change now because GPT-3 isn't running. It's just the text value that we got before. So I recommend you do this as soon as you've got results that you like, because the worst thing you could do is like accidentally delete the function or change something, and then it all reruns, and you might not get actually like this predictable answer back. There's a lot of randomness and entropy in what it sends you back. Cool. Okay, so this is how it works. You can really use this for anything. You can use this for translation. You can use it for writing ad copy. Really, whatever you want. Now that you have this function. If you're interested in how this actually works, then you can see there's this GPT-3, run GPT-3. Actually, if you're running into issues, just click here and click run GPT-3, and that should correct it. But what this is this is actually being added by a Google App Script. So go to extensions and then go to app scripts. You can see how this works. Feel free to copy this and use it. This is how you would make a Google App Script function. What I'm doing here is just adding the menu here, like run GPT-3. I've got a function that just calls the API with the prompt, the max tokens, and the temperature, and then a few other hard-coded settings, and then gets the response. We send our API key alongside in the headers, and that's how it knows that it's us. And that's why you never want to share the API key, because they could just rinse your account and spend a ton of money. Then it makes uses URL fetch app, which basically makes the API call for you to the completions engine for OpenAPI. And then when it gets it back, it takes the top choice and then returns the text. So you could also edit this if you like. I'll put this out open source so you guys can mess around with it if you want. Cool. So that's how that works. It only works in this sheet. So when you come in here, you want to just make a copy, and then it will copy the script as well. Make a copy the script, and if you want to kind of edit the script, you can come in here in the Google App Scripts and then copy it and kind of make changes if you like. Cool. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful.